This is Changelog 9 for Heist, the 8th in my series about what's changed and what's new in the game this week. Last week I integrated the electronic infrastructure system into the game, which allows me to easily build and simulate electronic systems. This week my plan was to build a load of alarm systems using this. Things like laser tripwires, motion detectors, code keypads, maybe a bomb to go off when the alarm goes off. Problem is, I was tripped up by a feature that's never actually been implemented into the engine. There's no proper support for drawing transparent things, and if I want to implement laser tripwires, I need to render semi-transparent beams. So I decided to hold off building any alarm components and instead build transparency support into the render properly. You can see here a graphics test scene which shows off some of the new transparency effects in the renderer. GPU simulated soft particles like these ones have been supported in the engine for ages, but they've had a load of small bugs which made them more or less useless. So I started off by reviewing this system, reminding myself how it all worked and fixing all of these bugs, so now I can really use particles in the engine. Next I implemented support for transparent models like this statue over here, which is using an additive transparency system, which is what you'd want to use if you were rendering a laser beam. This all took me a couple of days to get right because Heist uses a deferred renderer, and deferred renderers just fundamentally can't do transparent things. You have to use nasty tricks and hacks to get transparencies looking like they're in there, but they're not really. So I still got to come back to this to get proper glass rendering working at some point, but that's more work at a later date, once I do more work on city generation. Once I had basic transparency supported in the renderer, I went back to the game itself and had to fix a few bugs that these changes had caused, particularly in the UI system, which of course is built entirely around rendering semi-transparent UIs on top of the game world. While working on the UI system, I decided to fix another long-standing issue, which is that UIs have never really had anything they needed for in-world UIs, things like computer screens or code input pads that the player can interact with. Over here you can see my test case for all of this. I've disconnected my HUD display and instead I've placed it at the middle of the map. You can see that everything still works. I've got a gun, and if I start shooting, the ammo counter is going down there, and if I reload, wait a couple of seconds and it refills. Next week I'm hoping to get this in-world UI interactive, so I'll be able to press the use key while looking at it. That will trigger a ray lookup into the world, work out where the ray hits the UI, and then trigger a mouse click at that point. And then you can really have in-world UIs, things like code pads that you can look at, press use on a few times to type a code in. That's it for this week. If you'd like to keep up with the latest news on the project, you can follow me on Twitter as Martin D. Evans. You can follow my development blog at martindevans.me, or of course you can subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.